working on the same, like, a few bars for like 10 hours, and it's like backwards and forwards, and you think if everyone was watching me, they would think I was insane. And if it's like a loud piece of music and it's blasting, you know, and you're doing that backwards and forwards, it's totally, since I step back, my life is total insanity at times. I mean, you're sitting there like a...
But I think that those are...
Minutia.
I want to add something to the process that a lot of composers and up-and-comings don't really understand, that your musical gift is a part of what your gift has to be. Mm-hmm. The other part of your gift is being able to understand stories and how to tell those stories. So if you're working on a transition bar and you're working on it for 10 hours, it's not because the sound's not right. It's not because your gear isn't, because you didn't play. It's because you know that you haven't fixed that story connection. And that's what becomes the most important part of what you have to offer, that is being part of the storytelling. So I truly believe that if anyone wants to get into this, and I've known so many people in the rock world, they're like, oh man, you know, making records, it's over, man. I'm going to get into composing now. And I'm like, they've never seen a film before. They've never read a book before. I mean, it's like you've got to have a love of storytelling, of narrative. You have to be some form of cinephile. You have to understand the craftsmanship.
And it isn't always writing music.
No,
I don't know
that's right. Yeah, I was just going to say it's not just about music ever. It's always in service of picture. And I got into this because I love movies so much. I wanted to be in movies no matter what. Mm-hmm. And music was my way in and my contribution to the storytelling process. But if you don't absolutely love movies or TV or whatever it is, don't do it. It's not. If you just want to be a composer, then I wouldn't be doing TV or film. It's way too much of a hassle.
And you'll get fired constantly because
very difficult.
If you're not doing what if you're not
it's
telling the story.
It's such a subjective.
Well, all the music theory in the world isn't going to make you a good film composer.
I'm an orchestrating
it's a whole different, or film or TV composer. It's a completely different animal than just writing music. And
if you're in it because you're obsessive and madly in love with film music to the point where, as I've often said to my students, you'd at least contemplate jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge in the name of film music, then you're in the right business.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I think you also have to consider yourself a filmmaker as well. And I think everybody in here could make a film. You have this incredibly distinguished career because you've been able to do the editing, the directing, the music, the whole 9 yards. And each one of us has become amazing editors. There's no question about it. I could sit there and watch the worst thing ever and tell you the best way to tell that story without the music. And that comes from all of this time spent, years spent doing this, and also not just being film composers, but you're also a filmmaker. So I think that it's really important that everybody keeps that in mind as you're wanting to get into this career, that it's, yes, you're a film composer, but part of that is being a filmmaker. You're in this field to make films and to...
You're being asked to connect to the emotional, the subtextual, you know, life of the film or the art or whatever it is, you know, and express it with a sound. You know, and be truthful about it.
Yeah, like Chris said, though, it's about. I mean, I never even knew the film composers even made any money. I really had no idea there was even money to be made. I just did it because it was fun. It was a hobby of mine. And when I first got a real movie, I was just like, they're gonna pay me what? And does Tim Burton make Danny Elfman wash his car so he can score the movie? So
maybe.
So yeah, everyone knows my plight. I go off to editing jail for a year and a half, and I can't score any films. So.
When you're editing, do you think of the cues you might put in?
Not. I know that there will be music in a section that I'll create like a pregnant area for a score, but what it's going to be, I have no idea. You know.
And
it's just so
there are certain shots that call for music, you know, those little pan-ins or things.
Right. I mean, I know that's going to be a musical moment, but you just, you know, when you're editing a movie, it's just all-encompassing.
You don't really think,
you're trying to keep up with their shooting, you know, as they're shooting scenes.
Yeah. how to cover it.
Now, what,
this is my life. But what happens with directors, it's like these are people like
She had man hands.
You just have to be good friends. Like most of the filmmakers are friends of mine, and we have a common vocabulary. We like the same films, or we can argue about the same things, but also can hang out and have a glass of wine and a hot dog or something. That sounds horrible, but
No,
you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. It's like it's the relationships of like just the like you can be on a phone with a good friend for hours. These are the people and the investments that you want to have to work with.
Have those kind of relationships when you first started? Because I know when we started in the business scoring, which is now almost 20 years ago, there was a distance that we felt between the filmmakers and the networks that we didn't really feel we had an entitlement to those kind of relationships at first. We didn't
See,
go
I went to NYU, so like all my friends were
filmmakers.
filmmakers. And
Well,
it's like, so I get most
we
of
were
my
a
gigs
curiosity was the problem, was that it was
Yeah.
like, here these girls played with Prince, and it was like they just wanted to meet us. And like when we were in high school, we listened to Purple Rain all the time, and it was what does that have to do with like a piano and strings love story? Really nothing at all. They would just want to meet us, and it was a curiosity thing, and then it would have to turn into like us begging to demo a couple of scenes or
which
something.
we did a lot of free demos to get in there. We'll give us a scene. We'll just la la la.
So I did say earlier about doing things for free, and it's just always been my philosophy to just say yes, to everything. I don't mean that in a cheeky way,
But there are some famous examples recently of composer-director relationships that have blown up, and I think it's ultimately it becomes an ego thing. I think on some level, and you have to one of you has to back off at some point. And I know that in a couple of cases that hasn't happened recently, and so there's been a huge shift between those relationships.
or do you use that as a map? Do you just to get the emotion? What does attempt mean to you?
Depends on how badly you want that gig. Yeah, it's difficult because, and I think you guys can agree with this too, there's a lot of situations where they'll say, we have this movie and we've temped with, the first thing that comes to mind is, either Peter Gabriel's The Passion, right?
American Beauty.
Yeah.
American Beauty, the score.
American Beauty, Tommy Newman, or, Shawshank Redemption, everything. So they say to you before you've done something, do you have something in your library that you've done that's this? Right. And then you say, well, yes, you can say that, but ultimately what you really want to say, and I have begun to say now, is your film hasn't been scored yet. I haven't scored this. Mm-hmm. It will be something different because of the way this is paced, the way this is cut, whatever you're using. It doesn't matter. It hasn't been done yet.